Many manufacturers are coming out with electric crossovers in order to have more room for batteries. But will the sleeker sedan shape of this electrified G80 provide better range numbers on the highway than those larger alternatives? Let's go find out. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got the real-world highway efficiency and range test on the 2023 Genesis Electrified G80. In today's test, we're going to head out and do 50 miles out and 50 miles back, averaging 70 miles per hour to get a realistic number for this car. Before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. Nice winter evening, actually, here in Michigan. I don't even have a jacket on. It's middle of February. We should be under blankets of snow, but instead we're heading out in the evening here to do a fuel economy test, or really an efficiency test, if you will. The electrified G80 is pretty cool in that it just comes off as a G80. It just says G80 on the back. It looks like a very classy electric sedan here. I've been quite a fan driving it around. It does have a few quirks, and we'll talk about those a bit more in our DM review, so if you do want to see that, check the link in the description. We're also doing some tests on the Lexicon sound system inside. So if you want to see any of those, check the links in the description. But without any further ado, let's get started. Now, this sort of test is a real-world, just hop in your car and go sort of test. We're not preconditioning the battery. It is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit right now out here, so the car is fully charged up. It's been plugged in pretty much for an entire day at this point. We're going to get right in, fired up, and get out on the road. Before we actually, quote-unquote, start the car, we're going to reset our trip computer and our GPS. 67 degrees Fahrenheit auto and 1 level of seat heat is what we do for electric vehicles. And that's just for colder weather. For warmer weather tests, we do 73. But GPS is reset, car is reset, climate control is set. Tire pressures have been set to their door placard 36 PSI cold. And we are ready to begin. Now, the goal of this test isn't to hypermile. We're not going to try to squeeze out the best possible range figure for this car, but rather a realistic number. This is, hey, you just realized you needed to go somewhere far away on the highway, and you just need to head out and get there. So in order to do that, we're going to take it nice and easy over here to the highway and pick up the test from there. Now, the EPA claims that the electrified G80 should be able to do about 282 miles in mixed driving out of its 87.2 kilowatt hour battery, but the car itself, as we left the house, was 248 miles if we were to have HVAC off, and then 237 with HVAC on. Now it's dropped a mile here. So the car already doesn't think it's going to get nearly close to its EPA number, and we expect to get a little bit lower on the highway. You're dealing with more wind resistance, but the EPA says 97 MPGe is our estimate for mixed driving and only 89, so a little bit of a drop right there. So in theory, according to the EPA, we still should be able to see well over 250 miles of highway driving, but it is cooler today, and we're gonna have to be making some heat and everything, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what we get. We should safely be able to get over 200 miles of estimated range, but it should be interesting. I'm actually pretty impressed with the 2 miles that we've driven here to get to the highway. We're still getting 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour despite having to run some heat here. So the car must have a fairly efficient heating system. Getting up onto the highway, reasonable pace. Oh, all right, this Fusion said, go ahead, man. You can, well, all right, or don't. Getting up to highway speed here. Pretty quiet car. I've appreciated driving this car around this week because it is nice and luxurious, nice and floaty. Chris doesn't think it's that floaty, but I think he's wrong, and it's okay because he's not going to watch this anyway. Getting up to highway speed, we're going to set our cruise control at a GPS indicated 72 miles per hour. That should allow us to get an average of 70 miles per hour over the whole trip. Looks like the car is reading about 1 mile per hour high, so 73 on the dash is going to get 72 on the GPS. It's actually bouncing back and forth between 72 and 73, so I think we might actually end up dialing it back here. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Initial highway impressions. I mean, listen to this. It's quiet in here. It really is. I'm doing just fine. I think this is going to be a nice cruiser. All right, we're going to continue on with the test and catch up with you at the end. It'll probably be nice and dark by then. So in the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire trip. Coming into the end of the highway range test here in the Electrified G80, this is a great highway cruiser electric vehicle. My favorite highway cruiser electric vehicle at this point was the BMW i4. I still think the i4 is probably a better buy if you really need to churn a lot of miles with an EV, because 300 miles, no problem with that car, whereas this one, we're looking like we're going to be somewhere safely around that 250 range. We'll definitely have to charge back up and do some calculating. But even here in the cold, 41 degrees Fahrenheit, in the dark as well, we're 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour. That's pretty good. And what are we at battery percentage-wise? I don't like how the Genesis Hyundai products don't put your percentage down there. 65% after 97 miles. Yeah, 97 miles. So looks like we should be well over 60 still after 100 miles. So 200, very easily doable. And then we'll have to do some final calculations to see what that last number will likely be. But not only is this thing fairly efficient, but also a nice place to be in here. This is just comfortable. Now the Lexicon sound system, not quite as strong as the sound system in the other Lexicon Genesis products we've tested. I do think the batteries in the floor affect that a little bit. But all things considered, pretty nice place to be. So we're getting off the highway right now. We're going to take it nice and easy back to the house, charge this thing up, and get our final calculations done in the morning. All charged up in the morning, and we're ready to crunch some numbers. We ended up doing 101.2 miles over the trip, and according to our charger, total we took 34.4 kilowatt hours, but we assume about a 90% charging efficiency from a level 2 charger like this. So 34.4 times 0.9 is giving us 30.96, so let's round up 31 kilowatt hours we're assuming actually went back into the battery to charge this thing up afterward. So 101.2 miles divided by 31 kilowatt hours is giving us 3.26 miles per kilowatt hour according to our calculations based on our charger. Now that is a little bit higher than the 3.1 that the car was saying by the end, so I do want to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and actually round down to 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour on the highway trip, which is still pretty darn good. If we get 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour times the 87.2 kilowatt hour battery in here, you're looking at well over 270, nearly 280 miles of steady state 70 mile per hour driving here, even in cooler weather in the Electrified G80. That's pretty darn good, and it really shows one of the advantages of getting a sedan, a sleek profile like this for an electric vehicle, really any vehicle, obviously, but even for an electric vehicle, squeezing out that extra bit of range and not getting nearly as much of a penalty as you would for a larger crossover type of vehicle. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. 200, even a safe 250 if you're not charging all the way full, and obviously you don't want to run it all the way down to empty as you're road tripping, is a very usable number, especially with the 800 volt charging infrastructure that you can use with this car. You can really get a lot of charge quickly and put on a lot of miles. Not only that, but this thing's so comfortable and nice to be in, why wouldn't you want to churn miles in it? So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Electrified G80, check the link in the description, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.